Central America is now lessening, and in this it's in this changeover period to where it's going to be very quiet in terms of the moisture. Well, I shouldn't say it like that. The moisture coming from the Pacific will go slightly upward, and therefore the overall effect will be the hurricanes in the next year will have a much easier progress going across and doing severe damage depending on what the temperature of the ocean is.
Mm. All right. Let's stay on. Let's keep massaging on this vein right here, Baba.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about what wind carries. Hey man, drop on me, drop on the family about that spider man who ride the wind from Peru to Hawaii.
Okay. Well, once again, studying different species, different families, as we would say, when Western people got to Hawaii, they started to observe different spider species, and because they had traveled much of the world, they had only seen these same spider species on the western coast of South America. And so, of course, it was beyond speculation that how could these spiders go from South America and end up over here? So, they just dismissed it. But then people in the 20th century started to observe that these spiders would build a sort of how can I say it? They would build a spider web above their head as if it was an extended series of chakras. And they would build this at a certain time of year when the winds were going from east to west. And so this wind would lift up this spider webbing, which served as a parachute, and they would float from South America over to Hawaii, and they had some means of dropping down onto the actual island, and that's how they traveled.
Seems like parachute is the word of the day. That's incredible. So that webbing. What about the webbing itself, Baba? What is that? Some kind of quartz crystal technology, silk? What is that?
Well, see, once again, well, first of all, technology. Okay, this stuff that comes out of the inside of the spider, and where, at least in my generation, we were taught to think of this as an inconvenience. Like you go up in the attic and there's spider webbing, and you have to, knock it down. Well, as we got more as I got older, and science got a little bit more sophisticated, they were able to actually analyze this stuff, and I had to learn this new concept, this new scientific concept. And this scientific concept was called a liquid crystal. Because I'm a hippie, I've been studying crystals, since the 70s, but I'm like, well, what's a liquid crystal? And they said a liquid crystal is a series of the same type molecules, but instead of being a solid, actual physical crystal that I can hold, it's only 6 atoms across. And so, being, like I said, being the inquisitive hippie I was, I'm like, well, this sounds kind of weird. where in the universe might I find this stuff? And of course, we didn't have Alexa back then. We just had Encyclopedia Britannica and the librarian. And the librarian's like, well, go up there, go right up there to that section um, that deals with human anatomy. And of course, I did the Scooby Doo thing. What does human anatomy have to do with liquid crystals? And of course, as soon as I opened up the big book of wisdom, you know, how does the spaceship human body work? It said, well, you won't find any hardcore, meaning solid crystals around the endocrine system of organs. And I'm like, oh, okay. But you will find this stuff called the connective tissue and the fascia. I'm like, oh, yeah, I've heard of that. And they're like, well, that's a liquid crystal. I'm like, what? I just learned that term. And they're like, so there's this small thing around each of our organs, had 6 atoms across, and it 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 envelops this stuff. And part of its function is that when something hits the body, before it hits that organ, that liquid crystal will absorb some of that energy. Well, this liquid crystal that's around each of the connective tissue, as they call it, is liquid quartz. So years later, when I now, running around looking through my different textbooks, reading different things, and they finally said, meaning I finally ran into this one thing that said, well, spider webbing is a liquid crystal made out of a silicon dioxide quartz crystal. And I was like, oh no. So just recently, meaning in the last 18 months, there was this wonderful scientific paper that talked about how the spider web acts as an extension of the brain of the spider in terms of it being able to investigate, frequencies beyond what the physical, the physical sight and hearing and taste of the spider, and it can pick up on much lower frequencies than the spider, and it can pick up on much greater frequencies than the spider. Which when we translate that, it says it can, for example, they've measured it, and when an insect flies by the spider web, it's not even caught in the spider web. When it flies by, the spider web can pick up on that frequency, and the spider knows what kind of insect it is, what direction it's traveling in, and if it gets trapped in the web, how to address it. Meaning some insects they have to attack from the back, and so the wings up first. Some they attack from the front to neutralize the stinger. But it has that intelligence. So it's the same thing as one of our those giant telescopes that are radio telescopes, by the way, that are pointing out into space in Arizona and New Mexico, because they're reaching out into the far reaches of space. They're acting as that same function as the spider web. And all that's quartz. It's just in a liquid form.
Dang, man! In Arizona, in the Navajo, they have the a lot of people have it, a nine-sided spider.
Yes.
So
of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Well, excuse me, Baba. Excuse me. No. Excuse me, Baba in training. Okay. Let's.
Really?
Hey, we're all in training. I laugh when people call me Baba. I'm like, no.
Can I say something before we go further?
Say a whole bunch of something.
I just want one thing, because we just jumped in. Family, this is the Ring Stone Network. I have Master Teacher Lester Lovings on, teaching us about liquid quartz. I have Brother Eric out of Texas, and we're blessed to also have sitting in is Brother Eddie of South Carolina. All of us are students of Robert X. and Beverly Truth the Power Show. This is Houston.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, once again, the fact that we know that from the sun, the sun is constantly letting off energy that's being created or generated from the center of herself, but moving out over thousands of years to the surface of the sun where it gets pushed out. And every 11 years, due to functions that I'm not going to spend time on now, we can talk about it later, but it pushes those things out, and it pushes it out faster and more of it. And that's what we call sunspots. But the result of those sunspots hitting our atmosphere, okay, I'm over exaggerating. When the sun lets off this energy, which is called the solar wind, it hits the side of the earth that is facing the sun, which is called daytime. And so normally a magnetic field of any time, you look at a picture or image of a bar magnet, and you'll see that there's a loop going all the way around from the top to the bottom on the right side, and the loop going from the top to the bottom on the left side. So it's completely even. But in space, as Earth is traveling through space, that solar wind is hitting one side of it. So it indents the solar or the magnetic field of the Earth on one side, the side facing it, and it stretches out the other side. If we go to Google right now and type in solar wind hitting Earth's atmosphere and press images, up will come this thing, and it looks remarkably like a spider. So Earth is weaving a spider web around the sun. The sun is probably weaving a spider web around the galactic center. Our galaxy it's all a giant spider web to attract and resonate with different frequencies.
Man. Come on, man. I'm gonna take a recess on that one, man. Somebody else step in here, man. I gotta take a breather.
I just want you to explain the 6 atoms. My daughter's doing something with the periodic table, and 6 is carbon.
Oh yeah.
So when you talk,
yes. Go ahead. Yeah, talk to me.
So for liquid crystal, then it has to have a certain amount of carbon in it to be liquefied, or
no. The definition is that whatever element or series of elements it's made of is only 6 atoms across. So it could be 6 atoms of carbon. And there are different expressions in water of that.
well, that's deep.
Well, no, it's not deep. No. Let me address our culture. Okay, our culture. Our culture in Western modern 21st century culture. We have this expression, and that expression is 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. You ever heard that?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, the whole premise it's based on, the whole theory, to use a scientific term, is that anybody can connect through Kevin Bacon. Like if you called up somebody and you said, I want to talk to Kevin Bacon, they called up somebody, it would take 6 phone calls for somebody to actually connect with Kevin Bacon. That's the liquid crystal of matter. That those 6 atoms across, that's the 6 degrees of separation. That we connect The body, the body's communication system just needs a small amount of not even a solid crystal, because every time we turn, every time we breathe in and out, those crystals are being pressed. And that forms the piezoelectric effect, which means electrons, electricity is coming off of that. So if we're moving in the right directions, and animals always know how to move, if they move one way a certain amount of time, they will naturally want to move the other way because they know that's bringing the right amount of electricity and the right spin of the electricity to, in other words, all massaging those organs. And of course, the best way to do that is yoga. um, is generating the electricity from within that will keep everything harmonized and contributing back to the source, which is the earth, the sun, the galactic center, and the universe.
That's deep though, because I had a spider out back, and it's about the size of a quarter. And I wouldn't
Okay.
kill him. But every morning I would get up and take his web, and I was putting it in an
Yeah.
organ. Finally, he moved. Now I understand why he moved. He was like, you know what? I'm sick of you taking. You know what I mean? Because I was taking it, and like I still got some on my altar now because I was so careful with it like that. But I
Yes.
was taking it and putting it in Oregon. But he moved. He literally. It was like I was a nuisance. You know what I mean? And now I
Yeah.
understand why. Because if he's getting all that information from his
Yes.
web, then he knew I was coming, what time I was coming, and he finally got tired of hearing that, like that.
He like a bill
Well,
collector.
no. Let's think of this from the cosmic DJ MC perspective. Okay, the spider set up the webbing, and we can always tell the frequency of any shape. Let me go back. We can determine the frequency of any shape by adding up all the number of angles in any shape.
Mm.
Will tell us its frequency. And that's what first blew my mind about spiders, because I'm like, there are hundreds of little things that each are a rectangle, but we know the frequency of each rectangle is 360, 60 hertz. So that's thousands of those things. So they're picking up stuff, like I said, from deep within themselves, but also from way out there.
Wow.
And excuse me, but nature always educates everyone that's in her domain. So it's reminding us that we got to set up some kind of field like that. In other words, incorporate the idea that we're picking up on the lowest frequencies, but also the ultimate out of the numerical. Like, we can't even write it down, but those frequencies. And now think about it this way: constellations, or the different astrological, constellations. Those things can be thought of in terms of spiders connecting different points together throughout time and space. And on the mundane level, they say that if you add up the weight of every single human on Earth, so we know we got over 8 billion humans, and some of them are children, some of them babies, and some are overweight. But if we just say 100 pounds per person, average, and then we say there's 8 billion people, so there's 800 billion pounds. Spiders every year eat 800 billion pounds of insects and other beings. Without them, we'd be overrun. Okay, so think about that just on the mundane level, that they serve all of us. you know, you know. Anyway,
Wow.
now,
There's a
oh
spider
no, no,
web there.
no, no, no. I'm
Mhm.
sorry. I'm neglecting my hippie duties. Okay, because all that science, forget that, scrubs. Okay, so somebody came along and said, like I did, because I was looking at the spider webbing one time, and I was thinking about how thin it is and how delicate it is, and at the same time, it can hold a water droplet that's 100 times its weight in each little section of the spider webbing.
Wow.
Think about that. I mean, we've all seen that. Okay, if you take the spider web when it's dry and just ball it up in your hand, it'll be this little tiny thing, and then it's holding water that literally, if you squeezed it out from that spider web, would you know, fill up half a cup. What's up with that? And so, luckily for me, the universe was like, "Oh no, we got an adventure for you to go on," and somebody figured out that not just pound per pound or inch per inch, but strand for strand, the spider web was the strongest material made by an animal or one of the animal kingdoms. And so he worked for many years how to be able to milk the spiders out of its spider webbing without killing them, and then refining it so he could stack them together. And that is the birth of Kevlar, the stuff that stops bullets.
Oh shit, man.
they they just put a little fancy thing around it, and then they put that padding on top. But that's spiderweb technology, sons.
Man, damn. Man, come on.
Okay,
But
so
if you a
no, I'm just saying. I have to say this before you respond. But when people say, "Well, has any of this what you say been scientifically tested?" I'm like, you know, they make stuff out of this knowledge.
wow,
Now,
damn.
now, I just said I was going to stop talking, but we got to
No, go
look. We
ahead. Go
got to
ahead.
look at
That's what we're here
no,
for.
no, we got to look at the armor that the ancient Egyptians had, because the plating on their different shields and the different armors that they had, they copied part of the insect kingdom, and so literally it acted as Kevlar. Like somebody could be like 10 feet from them and throw a spear at them, and the spearhead would bend because they copied the plating of some insect that they had in Egypt. That's why scientific interpretation, like, what? Of course, those are our teachers. Nature is our teacher. The being, not nature, the beings that nature has created are our teachers. You know.
It's amazing because I was just looking at a YouTube short this morning, and they were
Uh
saying
huh.
to liquefy quartz they needed 10,000 degrees, and then there's
Oh
something that
yes,
the spider,
that's
yeah,
right. That's right.
mhm, the spider's naturally doing.
Oh,
It's yeah, very powerful. But I mean, we were going to talk about connection, so that's a serious
oh
connection. You
yeah.
know, I won't I won't share too much of me, but it was a time that I had like a brown recluse. It was always in my basement, so I would catch that sucker,
Uh-huh.
and
Yes.
I took it 20 miles away, and I swear when I got home, it opened up the door. I ain't lying, man. It was like that, but got back. Like, you bed. Yeah. And because I was told they home. So I kind of knew that they could. I saw once they could put out a certain length of their silk, and it turns them into a kite, like, and they can just surf the wind because the silk helping them.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
So I said, I'm gonna take him away the wet, and I took that thing away. Finally, it was Sister Myra. Because Sister Myra was
Yeah.
like, universe trying to give you a gift, Usiku, so take it as a gift. So
Mm-hmm.
I mounted it, and I still have it where I can wear it on,
Uh-huh.
and then they stopped coming around like that. But yeah, but that's fascinating. I didn't know that it was silk. I just assumed from your teaching it was some quartz in it. So I was like, man, I'm gonna make me an Oregon. So every morning I'll
That's
go
right.
out there and get a
Mm-hmm.
ball of it. That thing moving. It's been around here for 4 years. You know what I mean? Because I was like, look, I'm not gonna mess with you long as I don't walk out the door into your web. You good. You know what I mean? And you don't come in the house because it scares my daughter. And
Yes, 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 yes.
stay to the side, but it moved. It left. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was. I was like, well, damn. Nah, but it's scary that you would have. You kind of have certain people that's so deep in the capitalism that they would take the porch from a spider. You know what I mean? Like that's some
Uh,
serious to think about.
hey,
You know, you'd be like, damn, if y'all do that to the spider, what you gonna do to me? But I will get
uh,
controversy.
uh, some people will do anything to avoid work. That's a joke.
Good way to put it. Yeah, that's for real.
Well, I'm only saying that I'm only refreshing our memory that capitalism, no matter how benevolent or malevolent, is based on using other people's energies.
Yeah, yeah.
And they just extended to the animal and the insect world. Oh, yeah, bro. Look, you know, they are here to remind us of the endless, or the idea that there's an energy shortage is ridiculous. And therefore, we have to find, as I said, the benevolent version of working with the spiders. Okay, it might be, communicating with them so they build webs around our houses and uh, event prevent insects from coming in, or even blocking water. We might learn from them how to make up certain patterns that can literally break down the tornado or hurricane. Because we've all seen spider webs in the midst of a storm being blown, and the next day everything's knocked over. The spider web's still intact, haven't we?
Yeah, definitely. I'm amazed by that. No matter what angle the water come in, because we get a lot
That's
of
right. That's
we
right.
get violent storms in Texas, man, real violent. And
That's right.
you come out in the morning, man, limbs, trees down, the spider webs is in there, man, gleaming. We got all rainbow colors
That's
blowing in
right.
the wind.
That's right. That's right.
Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Untouched, and the spider up there chilling.
That's right. And the reverse is also true. The trees are knocked down, the leaves are shredded, stuff is ripped up, spider web is half dangled and whatever, but the spider web is not only alive but repairing stuff.
Y'all, man, with the quickness.
With the quick, exactly.
Yeah, wow, it's amazing, ain't it? Ant mounds, the same way with ant mounds, man.
Right.
We don't know what an ant mound is as a child, so you gotta knock it over and see what it do. Man, go
Right.
in the house, eat lunch, and come back. It's right back, and the
Uh,
ants are already inside chilling again.
excuse me, those are called pyramid builders.
Already. Man. Oh
And
yeah,
you're at,
spider.
no, and there are many times when I have, you know, known or heard that rain is coming, and I'll look out of my garden and I'll see certain ant hills. And then I go inside and it rains. And I come out and some of them are still intact. They're built so well that the water goes around them. And then they build channels underneath to divert the water from where they live. And I'm like, oh no, they're architects.
Yeah. Damn.
What?
Yeah.
No, no, bro. Give credit where credit is due.
Yeah.
But that was the sophistication of the people of Kemet and the people.
Yes, yeah,
And
go ahead.
I'll keep
Yeah,
along. They 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 follow what the animals did. You know what I mean? Like when you
mm-hmm.
had the inundation of Nile Valley,
Yes,
they didn't try to
yes,
fight it or restrict it. They dealt with
right,
it. You know what I mean?
right.
And
That's
so,
right.
and that kept their soil from getting depleted. Like, you know, but yeah. And there's a lot of little things
Well,
that we do now that really came from animal world.
right.
You know what I mean? We just don't know that somebody was watching and observing it. You know what I'm saying? Or let's say the observation of the moon and the many phases of the moon. You know,
Yes.
or suppose we're having this beaver moon. We just got some beaver moon. Well, why is that? You know, why do they
Mm-hmm.
use beaver?
Mm-hmm.
It was a logic in it where they had studied the beaver does.
Well, see, see, once again, okay, excuse me, let me just wiki on the mic right now, okay?
Oh, for
Okay. When we talk about Earth astrology, okay, not human individual stuff, but Earth astrology, the Earth looks at where the sun is in according to the zodiacal belt, meaning the precession of the animals in the zodiac. You follow what I'm saying?
mm-hmm.
You know, we look up at this time of the year and we say the sun is in Scorpio. Scorpio's right there in the zodiac, the stars, the constellation. But the moon travels in a monthly cycle. So just recently, when we had the full moon, the the sun was in Scorpio, but the 180 degrees from that was the moon at the full moon, which was in Taurus. And the ancient Egyptians, the Kemites, understood that for Earth astrology, they had to look at everything in terms of whatever the sun sign was in, but also what was the complement or the opposite expression of that and making those things balance. When it comes to the 6 different complementary relationships or astrology, the Egyptians clearly tell us that the most productive is when one of those items is in Scorpio and the other item is in Taurus, because that's the that's the fertilization germination cycle. We don't pay attention to the sun moon cycles now. We try to remote plants and animals to do things out of their cycles, and also humans to the point where we don't even recognize these cycles anymore. However, nature still obeys these cycles. And so this is the time of us making decisions. Are we going to learn how to pay attention to subtle and not so subtle vibrations to tell us to pick up on certain things, or and it's not. I'm not going to even give a negative expression of that. It's like how many times until we learn to pay attention to these cycles? Well, this particular Taurus Scorpio cycle is telling us to get, cleanse, get rid of the stuff we're no longer using. Don't think of it as I wasted my time on this stuff. Think of it as like, this helped me to grow. I'm here now. This is the soil I needed before, and this is what came out of it, and I'm glad for that. And now I'm ready to do something else or better or different or whatever, according to the being in the moment of what's happening. The spider web is not paying attention to ancient vibrations. It's paying attention to what's flying by it or vibrating by it at that moment. And we have to learn to overcome our fears, our appetites, meaning our temporary desires. And I mean, I don't mean that we can't obey them. I'm just saying that there are other signals coming to us, and that was the thing I wrote down in terms of what we want to talk about. How do we reach out and not just find our community members, but what is the mechanism by which we do this? From a physics standpoint. Any ideas?
Everybody mute.
Help me on that one.
Okay, let me just babble a little bit longer.
Hey, Doc, what was the question?
Right. I'm sorry, say that again.
Yeah, I didn't hear the question clearly. Could you repeat the question?
Okay, the question is, what is there a mechanism by which the different members the of the living beings on this planet can communicate with each other?
I would like to. Well, go ahead, Eddie. I see you on mute. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd say the pineal gland. No, I don't think it's the reptilian on the back of the spine, but is the pineal?
Okay, what I would say, my brother, is that is an antenna, and my question is addressing what is the mechanism that broadcasts that signal from one entity to another? In other words, how does the intention of my pineal gland reach you, or how does yours reach me? What's that mechanism?
And it's in the body of man, right?
It's straight up in and yes, it's in the body.
Well, ports, water, those could be media, right? For communication.
That's a good one, especially the water.
Okay. Now see. Once again, everything. Okay. Before I go any further, I want to talk about my mother, and my mother talked to me and taught me about when she went to school. And when she went to school as a, first to 12th grade, they had a grading system where when you got an assignment and you gave your answer, you could get two different grades depending on your answer. And so the first grade was according to giving the answer, not just the answer, but the method that you came up with was in agreement with what they wanted. But the second evaluation was if you came up with what they called original thinking. And so original thinking was saying this may not be the right answer, but just the fact that you conceive something that we can look at it in a whole different way. That's worth investigating. That's valid. Thusly, when we look at the water and we look at, what was the other thing you said?
Pineal.
The water and the quartz, the quartz and the pineal. Right. Okay. All of those, and I can address each one of them separately, and I'm not going to at all. But each one of those is part of the perceptive mechanism, meaning they're parts of how we pick up on stuff. But we still need a mechanism. We still need a broadcasting system. And so therefore, we first look at the technology of broadcasting signals. And we don't have to do any more wiki hip hop than to go with the master MC of the 19th into the 20th century, Nikola Tesla. Okay? Because the T-Man told us most point blank in our face with our Martin boots that frequencies like waves have intervals. And therefore, if we can figure out the intervals, in other words, like a snake, it goes up, or a serpent, it goes up part of the way, it goes down into the water at the same rate, and it goes, those are waves. And so the T-Man went about studying and saying, okay, what do we know about this? Well, that was the time when they were studying, and I promised myself I was going to find this word. And but it's a German word, and it means oscillating, meaning everything that's spinning and moving has stuff inside of it that's moving, a frequency, not even a physical thing, but a frequency that's moving back. That's its oscillation. And so when we look at the Earth's oscillations, it tells us that it corresponds directly with one of the 5 sacred geometry shapes, or what other people call the platonic solids. In other words, the Earth itself is oscillating with the frequency of a dodecahedron. And when we look in the Western study of energy, it tells us directly that anything that is in the shape of a dodecahedron will attract or absorb and radiate radio waves. Okay, so the shape of our planet means that any radio waves that are from space, doesn't matter how far out, our shape is going to attract those signals to us. And at the same time, anything that's in the radio frequency is being broadcast out from us. It's going out into space endlessly. That was point number one. Point number two is that um, every cell in the human body is tuned to radio waves. And therefore, each one of them, it doesn't matter if it's a liver cell or an eyeball cell or a brain cell or a toenail cell, they're all tuned to take in and let off radio frequencies. And then, of course, we've got the very things that you mentioned, that water and quartz, quartz can take on any frequency of any matter or non-matter that we know of. And water is the same way. But it's the distribution unit, which is the earth itself, that allows these frequencies to go from one place to its frequency, its equivalent vibratory frequency. Just like we know that when the herd of elephants is traveling, and sometimes the baby elephant is straggling behind to the point where it can't even see the herd, but the matriarch of the herd is sitting at a subsonic frequency. It's not even audible, but that wave travels to the earth 5 miles. And therefore, that baby elephant can feel that frequency, pick up on it, and go in the exact direction and catch up with the herd. We just recently learned about the platypus. It's a mixture of different things. It lays eggs. You got a tail. It's got a bill like a duck. But the thing I didn't know until just last week on Science Friday, they were talking about when it lives in rivers, but when it's going to find its prey, when it's going to find food, it will dive into the water. It will close both of its eyes. It has the ability to seal off its ears, and it will stop stuff from coming into its nose. So it's shutting off its literal five senses ability. And there's this thing in its bill that can find electrical signals. And so its prey, of course, is letting off electrical signals. So even though its eyes are closed, it can't hear anything and it can't smell anything, it finds its food. We have these abilities. They're just dormant right now. And I don't just mean that I can find my food, finding my snout. I can literally, once we're in tune with this connective global system, I could breathe in and say, oh, I need to eat this because I can smell, the dim sum from Saigon. Oh no, superheroes is supposed to be what we do before breakfast. I'm just saying that there's a system out there that is literally the earth itself, the shape of the earth, and every cell in our body is picking up on that. That's why it's called a cell phone, that the cells can talk to each other and do. It's not just some dormant or latent ability. Like it's as I constantly say, it's picking up on the message because our clogged systems, and they put all kinds of things in our way to make it more clogged. But it's not the signal, it's the follow through of the signal. A lot of times we get the signal where we're like, oh no, forget that, or we refer to some cultural thing and say, well, 8 or 10 times that has happened. It's like, no, but the universe through the dodecahedral universal radial system is telling us this is the message that the universe wants us to know at this moment. And we just have to practice until we respond as automatic. But the system is still in place. The animals use it all the time.
Yeah, that's real interesting. I passed through Country Road last night, and I was basically the only car that came through there. But at least it seemed like there was none in front of me or behind me. But I saw this dead man. He
Uh-huh.
just walking across the road, man. It's like, what is he doing?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So,
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
so can we
Oh,
take our dodecahedron to help increase our ability to connect or communicate? Like if we had one of those shapes.
okay. Okay. Um the reason why people have been studying the sacred geometry, the five basic shapes, is because those are architects, those are archetypal shapes, not just of physical matter, but of physical consciousness and how energy changes from one form or level to another. So it's important that we have these actual shapes around us. But the joke is, of course, on us because when it comes to the water within our bodies, depending on the temperature that we're at. So if it's 50 degrees, if it's 70 degrees, if it's 90 degrees, if it's 20 degrees, the water in our bodies form the five the five platonic solids. But depending on the temperature, there's a different ratio of them. So, in other words, there's a level of temperature where the dodecahedral shape is predominant within our water system in our bodies. So we go through these different shapes and these different, depending on the temperature, we go through a different distribution of them. So we have access to the dodecahedron within our water. And when I try to, because I make models of these things. So when I looked in the literature and they showed four different shapes, I said I could knock out these four different shapes, no problem. And I went and I looked at the first of the four. Of course, I chose the one that I thought was the simplest one. It took me a month to figure out how to make the template for this one thing. And then I read the next sentence and it said there's 30,000 versions of these things, different versions according to what we're thinking. The water takes on the shape of what we're thinking. So, being the lazy butt that I am, I said, oh, I'll just go to the next one. And then they said the icosahedron is infinite, which means that no matter what thought we have, no matter what emotion we have, there's part of our water that's making those shapes and reproducing those actual thoughts. So that told me I better reconsider what my thoughts are, not the state of the water. But we have the mechanism from communicating from one to another, not just on Earth, not just, and we forget all the tiny little Negroes that are in the ground that are doing all this work, but out there in space and beyond. uh, Non visible beings. because, as I always tell the brother, only 3% of the universe is visible. 97 is not visible. You can talk to me all day long about dark energy, dark matter. No, we don't even understand the water inside of us. So my point is, we have access to dodecahedrons, and icosahedrons, and tetrahedrons, and octahedrons, and hexahedrons in our water. So yes, our emotions do affect the weather. And a great deal of the machinations that go on has nothing to do with manipulating the weather per se, but manipulating our emotions. And that affects the weather. They're making us do the dirty work. Response?
So what you're speaking to, Doc, is if these are the pictures and the
Yes.
symbols that we keep
Yes.
around us, going back to the holographic universe syndrome, right?
That's right. That's right. And what I'm saying is, even though I didn't realize it till you just spoke, what I'm saying is we have to give ourselves permission to have other pictures. Did you hear that?
Tenfold.
I got you.
Okay,
I mean,
it's what you say all the time, brother Isiku. You know, we cannot be basing our reality on trauma.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're right. You're absolutely right. No, that does not work.
That's powerful, though. I appreciate this one because basically you said we got everything in us. I mean, we basically buy gemstones for
Yes.
decoration, but they help. But
Yes.
basically, we can like go into a 50-degree. If we realized if we was in a 50-degree room and we would create the dodecahedron, then that would
Mm-hmm.
maximize our communication and our
That's
receiving.
right. That's right.
Because you said it's bi-directional in terms of the answers we need to get from the universe. And that's powerful, or just mindset, or this is another reason why meditation and perfecting your
Mm-hmm.
meditation. You know what I mean? Because you can change your brainwave when you really meditated, and then that brainwave should affect your water. You know
Oh,
what I mean? Like,
all the above. All the above. Look, we can get into human resonances. We can get into you know the ionosphere, the four different different levels of the ionosphere, which directly reflects the four different states of the brain waves. Um, but we're not going to because it's an investigation. You know, anything I could say, people are like, oh, I heard this from the brother. I'm like, that's just the opening sentence of the investigation. You know, we're, we're so connected to not just, okay, let me just be Forrest Gump for a moment. I went to all these scientific conventions in the late 80s and early 90s. And I got in because I was representing the people who were studying pyramid slash shape energy. And I'd get to the conference and I had my little badge on and I'd listen to all these people talk about all these things. And then I go up to these are the leading scientists in the world. And I go up to them and I say, is there any water in space? And they go, no, there's no water in space. And I'm like, but every star when it's born, a whole shit ton of water comes out of it. It literally is the same analogy as the embryonic fluid. Like a bunch of water comes out. And at the edge of our universe, we've got this thing where there's all kinds of chunks of giant water that goes from the edge of Pluto, the non-planet, ha ha ha, all the way to the next star. And finally, after 10 years of me going to these conferences, this one guy felt sorry for me, and he came over to me in private, during a break, and he said, "You're asking the wrong question." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "You need to ask these people, is there any ice in space?" And so I was like, "Oh, what's the difference? Water, but I didn't resist it. I went up to the same people I've been going to these conferences for years and asking them. And I said, "Well, is there any ice in space?" And they're like, "Oh, no, bro, there's a shit ton. There's all this stuff, So I'm just saying that we have to take the time to learn how to observe what we feel, both internally and externally, and then learn how to learn a new language and expressing it so I can express it to other people. And in terms of, asking the experts, as soon as I knew how to address them, they gave me the answer. There's water everywhere in space. It's just in
But
the
Doc,
form of ice.
that is really sad though.
Oh, of course it's sad. But no denial.
I like that Brother Usiku brought up his daughter and the periodic table. So let's deal with that a little bit.
Of course. No, that's essential. That is essential.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And in the terms of this, it's still in the same subject. Actually, it's going to be very interesting where this goes because we have come to the knowledge of the type of quartz that's in Carolina because of a couple of hurricanes. But Burl,
that's right.
Let's go with Burl is number 4 on the periodic table. And this is what I found about the intelligence of the periodic table. You know what I'm saying? It's laid out in hydrogen, helium, lithium, and then Burl. So man, just them 4 building blocks right there, man. You just got so much. But beryllium, aquamarine, a couple of different species of beautiful crystals come out of beryllium. It's aluminum, which they find in granite. And so we talking about microwave technology. And but yeah, Baba, number 4 in Burl and the storm Burl, it really tore up Texas. But I seen it when it was in Jamaica. I said, man, wait a minute. They got a category 4 storm called Burl in Jamaica. I said, man, hold up, man. 4 is Burl on the periodic table. I said, man, let me watch this storm. Then it came into Texas, and they said, man, it's gonna hit in the Gulf and it's gonna turn up. I said, oh man, this reminds me of Louisiana when them storms Katrina and them came through, man, and they did that big curve, and it did just that. And them kind of storms, man, they tear stuff up. So it left us with it rained for days, man. I ain't talking about just any kind of rain. I'm talking about hail, turning over trees, turning over homes. I said, man, this was money. So I paid more close attention to these storms than the names. Then they came with, and then I asked you about Milton Burrow, but you said look up a man named, what was the name? John?
John Milton. Yes.
Yeah, John Milton. There you go, John Milton. So a lot of connection with this storm Burrow and the periodic table number 4. Baba, build on it, Baba. In terms of the building of the periodic table, the number 8, how we talk about H represents the number 8, and hydrogen, oxygen. It's some major intelligence in the periodic table 1 through 8. So let's start right there with Burrow or lithium. We could start with lithium because that's the big news right now is lithium.
That's right.
And Burrow,
that's right.
And the connection 3 and 4. The 3s and 4. We got the 1s and the 2s on the turntable, but the 3s and the 4s. That's where we at right now because they're still uncovering different elements out of the earth because of these storms. It's uncovered a lot of things. Politically, a lot of things we can see clear now because of these storms came through. ironically called Burl. Yeah, build on that, Baba, if you will.
Okay. Well, first of all, uh, when we're talking about the periodic table, we're okay. The periodic table is a two-dimensional expression of how stars operate. In the middle of each star, there is a bunch of helium, and it's under such pressure and conditions that it'll eventually uh, evolve into helium. And I bring I bring it up only in the sense that when we look at the first eight elements in the periodic table, that is the process by which elemental evolution happens. So what am I babbling about? I'm babbling about the fact that this year is an 8 universal year. 2024, if we add those numbers together, it comes up to 8. And 8 is always, as above, so below. You got that upper circle and you got that lower circle. Things are coming down, from the upper one to the lower one. So it's telling us that we've got the same elements, but we're going to see them and use them in different manners than we had before. Of course, there's always some overlap time period because people who set up certain programs into place don't want to let go of them. So what I'm saying is that those first 8 elements show us a whole bunch of things about the correspondence of the 5 platonic solids or sacred geometry. We've got tetrahedrons in there. We've got octahedrons, double terminated pyramids in there. We've got icosahedrons in there. So the bottom line of what we're supposed to learn from this is we are finally learning the proper way that we can learn about these elements, these first 8, and how to now make them work for us individually and culturally, not just how to make one person a whole bunch of money. That's the move right now. Now, am I naive enough to think that this is going to happen overnight? No. Okay. The Aztec calendar that we've been looking at that told us about 2012 also told us about this time period, which is that the end of the very bottom of the vibration of this cycle of energy, which is 12,000 years, will be coming to its conclusion on March the 21st. So it's going to get a lot more funky between now and then. And let's hold on. We're talking about galactic time. So just because we cross that barrier of, that, oh my God, this is the lowest vibration, it's going to take us 200 years to get out of this thing. But that has no bearing on us as individuals. And therefore, out of the darkness comes the light for each of us bearers who are actually trying to re-energize this thing. So it's an excellent time. It's just going to be hard. Since when have we known soft? So this is a wonderful time to really see how each of our individual progressions and purifications, and then as we purify, we start to reconnect the cellular network, and that is a magnetic process. So we start to attract each other who is working on similar things and/or who needs the next level, and we build.
An example of that is this meeting. This meeting is an example of that.
Say that again.
And this meeting is an example of what you just
yes,
said.
That's it.
And we've been walking through the periodic table because I noticed last year was nitrogen, but things were growing, these new ideas, and now we in the the ocular part of it, where we could see it coming into fruition with the 8 with the glasses. And I got the They Live glasses on, And, I got my double knockers on, though I could see. That was back then, but I got the newer version. So, yeah.
Oh, you got the Joe Biden version. Right?
I was getting ready to ask him what he had on.
I'm going on mute on that one. I'm going on mute. I'm going to give me some watermelon.
That's right. They live. I know. I mean, they should act. Hello?
We're here.
No, they should actually do an update where people have their iPads out. Yeah.
That was some deep stuff, man. That was some real deep stuff. Real deep.
It was.
And how at the end when they was up on the rooftop with the satellites and the woman with the coat. You right, Bob. They should continue that because they were saying a lot right there.
Yeah, they sure were. Come on now.
Oh, man. Thank you. I'm so glad we on this subject. The female on the rooftop with the satellites, and Babu Tiku was dropping me on some cat science today about the cats, the feline. Oh, man, let's go. Let's go, man. Let's go, Baba. The science of a cat, the whiskers, the eye vision that they have, the feline species on other planets, man. Let's go, Baba. Let's drop something over here, man. What you got on that?
Okay. Well, see, once again, I'm naive boy, early 70s, and I'm saying, well, how do we know so much about eyesight? And immediately my college people said, oh, my naive brother, the most research on human eyesight has been done on cats. And I'm like, what? And they're like, oh, yeah, the cat eye is very similar. And by inference, they were also saying the mechanism between, or the relationship between the cat eye and the cat brain, they're conducting a very similar, if not superior, consciousness, not just the brain, it's consciousness. Okay, so I'm like, okay, let me study it. Let me just see what we know about cats in general, not the advanced technology or the new studies. And the first thing I found out was that cats have the ability to reflect back 10% of the light that goes into their eyeball. Okay, we have less than 1%. So even in extreme darkness, there's just even a little bit of light that is amplified 10 times, and it goes back out from their eyeball. So it's like a flashlight. And I'm like, well, how are they able to do? No, but I was like, the first question I was like, well, how are they able to do that? And then, so I had to, as they're expressing people say now, I did a deep, I went down the rabbit hole. I did a deep dive, right? And it wasn't even that it was deep. It was just like, uh, I hadn't really thought about, animals or different species having different abilities. But immediately I found that the cats, or domesticated cats that we know now, and the big cats, they all come from what was known as the wild African cat. And it's this little thing. It's literally like the size of a big kitten. And when cats hunt nowadays, it takes them 15 times or up to 20 times to catch their prey. Whereas this little wild African cat is like 7 out of 10 times it catches its prey. And it's really teeny tiny. But here was the answer. The ancient cats, for millions of years, were tree dwellers. They hunted at night. And therefore their eyesight had to be tuned to night vision. And that leads us to point number 2, that due to the fact that they had a need to deal with at night, they developed the ability to see ultraviolet. So therefore, when we watch the special and we see the cat and it's looking at this entire bank of ivy, and you can see nothing moving, and this cat is just looking, and suddenly it pounces. It jumps up and it jumps down on it, and there's a mouse in its mouth. And the narrator is saying, as the cat approaches the prey senses its predator. And even though the cat can't see the prey, the mouse urinates, and there's ultraviolet crystals that the cat now knows where the mouse is. So I was like, oh, this is a technology. They're built for that. Then I learned that the length of the whiskers, that each of the set of whiskers picks up on a different visual. So it's not in the ultraviolet spectrum, it's in the visible spectrum. The longest whiskers, the one that go farthest, represent the red. The shortest ones represent the violet. And the ones in between represent those colors in between. But they can sense things just having their whiskers. They can sense different colors of bugs and other things that they eat, because cats are omnivores. They eat all kinds of things. And that should be a lesson for us too. That we as house cats, we're like, oh, feed them meat. But no, first chance they get, if they go outside, they eat the grass, they eat the bugs, they because different things have different nutrition at different times of the year.
That's interesting because it's like, so we believe you need a cat. You have a cat because it picks up certain spirits in your house. So
yes,
you're kind of implying that the cat's whispers will pick up an alien life force in your house. This is at
both
a certain
that
spectrum.
and its ability to see the ultraviolet. Yes. Both. Yeah. Because they're different frequencies or different energies. Right. Yes, but it's always been known that cats had that ability, and that's why the Egyptians kept them around and put earrings in their ears and gold things in their nose. I mean, come on, I don't even know how you do that. I don't even know how, if I had my house cat and I said, I'm going to punch an ear hole in your nose, the cat would let me do that, but he wouldn't be talking to me after that for a while. Now, what was the first thing that the Egyptians did when they domesticated the cat? Okay, all these other people have all these things about the cat came from this, but we know that the first amendment, they took the wild African cat, which was 35 pounds, And somehow, overnight, they had the cats that we know now, the small ones. And they used the big ones, the 35-pound cats, as um, their watch animals, like we have watch dogs. Mm-hmm. Well, their guardians of the temples were the cats, and you didn't want to mess with them at all. But the little cats they use for picking up, interpreting, and helping humans develop their perception of other dimensions and spiritual realities than the ones that we just see. Absolutely. Because the cats have that. Did I mention the fact that the cats have two eyelids? Well, no, I didn't. But the cat is built. The cat is built for perception way beyond our limited what we perceive, and the Egyptians understood that. Oh, that was the thing, was that as soon as they domesticated this thing, right, and somehow, because people want to tell me that they bred them until they were small, but when you look at the time period from when they took them out of the middle of the forest and the time they had these small things, there's not enough time for breeding. They genetically altered it like 23andMe or beyond 23andMe. So we could debate on that all day long. My point is that historically, they say the first thing they did with this teeny tiny cat, this 7-pound cat versus 35-pound cat, the first thing they did with these fellows is they put a what do they call the thing when collar? They put a collar around his neck and had a string attached to it, and they would go out with their boats onto the Nile and they would jump into the water, swim down and catch a fish, and swim back and bring the fish back. And when I read this in the hieroglyphs, and I'm like, no freaking way. What are you talking about, Willis? And so I went up to the university because I had to ask the professor. I'm like, is there any possibility? I'm like, is this bugging? Is this just some kind of metaphorical thing? And they're like, well, no. Cats can see better in water than they can see on land. And I'm like, stop the boat. And then I had to go to the cat expert, because my brain hurt. I couldn't figure. That didn't make sense to me. I mean, I agree. I accepted that was true, but I'm like, how is that possible? And the cat expert said, not only is that possible, but we haven't figured out how cats are able to drink ocean water and separate out the salt and still get nutrition from
it. That's called a catfish.
Yeah, there you go.
With the whiskers to go with it,
Exactly. Come on,
and
look here.
Cat means down. Like cataract means waterfall or cataclysm. Yeah. You have the caterpillar, which is a transformation.
That's right.
Go ahead, Baba.
I'm just saying
that loss of vision.
Oh, say that again.
How about cataracts and loss of vision?
Mm-hmm. Well, see, once again, see, even the blind cats have an extraordinary connection with their pineal gland, which is actually another eye. Vision, as I tried to point out, the visual world is only 3% of what is out there. and they see way beyond that 3%. But they're just reminding us that we have that ability. The Sphinx. Think about the Sphinx. you know, I'm reading about the Sphinx, and they said until the British got there, uh, the eyes were made out of in every statue in Egypt. Because I was thinking the Sphinx was unique, but then they said, no, no, my man, every statue in Egypt, the eyes were made out of quartz. And I was like, no, no possible way. And then I saw a drawing, an ancient drawing of the Sphinx with the quartz eyes. And I was just about to be blown away by that. And then they're like, well, no, my man, the Egyptians not only made all their windows, but their original glasses. I'm like, wait, the Egyptians made glasses? And they're like, no, they didn't make them out of glass, which we melt down quartz. They made them out of quartz itself. And I was like, oh, that would improve our cosmic vision, our pineal gland. What do we not? What do we know about Egypt? Meaning, the little that we think we know, it's 10 times more amplified than that.
Maybe Hank was back there, you know.
Say that again?
It was just a joke, you know, because Hank always put quartz in between his glasses. You know what I mean? He
Oh
put
yeah,
something
oh
in
yeah,
there.
yeah. Maybe Hank.
So
We
I
know
said
Hank was
maybe Hank
there
was
back
back
then.
there
Yeah,
in the day, you know.
yeah, that's right. Come on, man.
Yeah. But man, so you know what reminds me is like Devil Blair. He kind of said that this was the planet Earth was a zoo. I don't know if he implied it or not, but the spider and the cat were they delivered here? Do you think? Like, or did when the people came, the original ones that came here came to this planet, did they bring them or not?
Hmm. Uh, the cat is not from here, and at the same time, it is an indication of our evolution. It doesn't matter where we're at right now. Just like the cat evolved, we will be evolving.
Mm.
As a matter of fact, what they used to teach in the 80s, which I don't hear New Age people talking about now, is that we're the last of the physical beings in our solar system. All the animals that used to exist in our solar system have evolved beyond physicality, and they're just waiting for us to do so. So we can go to our whole solar system can go to a whole nother system. That's not taught now, but that was taught back then. So the cat is not from here. That's the short answer.
Okay. Because I mean, like one of my teachers, Humphrey, he spoke about the feline and us being cat
Yeah,
and
right.
being a product. And then in April 2022, I was really into the Anunnaki thing, and then my ancestors came to me and let me know
Yeah.
that wasn't my bloodline. They was like, no, that ain't your
Mm-hmm.
bloodline. And so I assumed from then on in, maybe the Anunnaki was smart enough to change history throughout the world to make it seem like the original, everything originated from them, but it did. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because my ancestors was like, no, feline people, they're different. And that's what, you know, kind of like my teacher was saying. And even Devil Blair kind of implied that they've been fighting in space for hundreds of years. You know what I mean? The
That's right.
feline against the
That's right.
reptilian. And so, it, you know, and I was like, it's cool. You know, I looked at this morning, I was looking at the mating of a lion with the tiger, and it produces a different species of animal. You
That's
know what I
right.
mean?
Yeah.
And it's bigger. It's bigger than the lion and you know, like that. Even though they know they can only produce it in captivity because they don't, you know, those prides don't meet like that. Wow, but you know, you got this thing that's almost twice as big as a lion that they produce. So
Well,
I can see them. Go ahead.
yeah. Well, no, excuse me for butting in here,
No,
but
please.
let us first talk about the black lion, which existed all throughout Africa and Europe, and they hunted down and killed every single one of them. that they didn't put into the the Coliseum to be hunted and killed. And they were much bigger. Everything was much bigger because the Earth was spinning faster. Uh, these are all things they want to ignore in order to maintain their storylines. But the liger, uh,
Yes.
or as you called it, the ligger, um,
Mhm.
uh, is just one expression. I mean, the cow horns were 10 feet across back in during that time period. You know, lions could not defeat cows at that time because everything was so much bigger, and they traveled in packs. You know, they knew there was safety in numbers. You know, if you got one lion and 10,000 cows, and they all turn around on that lion, that cow is trampled. Even a herd of cows. I mean, of lions. So it's much different story than what we're told. I'm not going to even go into that, but uh, um, there are 23 species of cats, both big ones and little ones, and they're all at the top of their food chain. The big cats are 4 million years old. The little cats are 12 million years old. The big cats evolved from the little cats. The little cats are the superior beings. And I say that because when I was 17 years old, there was a story in the news about this lion that charged a bunch of kids somewhere in Africa. And this 5 pound cat fought off this lion.
I can believe it. I recently watched a cat snap. He slapped a snake 3 times before the snake realized he had been hit.
Yep,
It was
yep.
like that shit was. It was kind of funny, but he just like "Pip, pip, pip." Like, don't you even think about biting me? And that's
That's right.
amazing how fast a reaction. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
is.
I love how you said that. Don't even think about it. I've seen that. I've seen that attitude on a small cat's face,
Yes,
and
I've
they would challenge animals bigger than them,
they will.
way bigger than them.
Yeah, I've seen the many a dog stand down.
Yes,
They just stand down. But you know, when you look at that and the spider, they're kind of unusual because the spider is very unusual. You know what I mean? But like for instance, I took his thread. Now I know I took some of his thread and I connected it on my energy center across two pillars like that, and then I was starting to blow on. You know what I
mm-hmm.
mean? So I was trying to blow my
Yeah,
intentions through it. So now I know it actually is sport, so I know it will. You know what I mean? Like that. I just have to
yeah.
give it time. Maybe he'll give me some more. But I don't know. That's probably sick of me. You know what I'm saying? Like that. Man. But you know, we got cats around our house. So every now and then, my daughter and we may feed them, but I know the guy on the end, he feeds them regularly. And so whenever they walk by my front door and look in, get concerned.
Yes,
I just truly be
yes.
like, maybe I need to burn some sage because he just stopped and looked in like he sees something. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Yeah, they're a special creature. You know. So
He might be wondering why you ain't paying toll. You ain't paying homage. You ain't giving none of them chicken. You know.
that's true. That's true. We'll throw some stuff out back from time to time. But not on the regular. But like I have some chicken like that out there, or something else that go bad, I throw it out there because I know. As a matter of fact, in my little shed, I was putting some C-rats out there, you know what I mean, or some MREs. The new word is MRE. And so I was like, let me check to make sure there ain't no mice in here. So, eventually I caught a mouse in. So me being lazy, I just threw the damn trap and all out back. You know what I mean? Gone,
Uh-huh.
gone. In a day, it's gone. So they regularly walk the house, you know what I mean? Or around the house,
Oh
but
yeah.
it was gone. He was like, "What? Thank you for it." Going about his business. And this is probably a third generation because I know some of them. I know if I get a house where I can have pets, I probably end up getting one. As we become more, you know what I mean? Like with the things that they're doing, then having some that naturally can protect your house is cool because, like we discussed Helena and what they're doing up there. And I recently
Mm-hmm.
saw uh, a video where the lady was saying some of the FEMA camps ain't FEMA camps, But even if they're coming up with technology where, they could bend light or electric so you can't see them, having a cat, they can't hide from that. You know what I mean?
That's right. That's right.
Because it's gonna see, and you be like, "Yo, why you acting like you are?" And you automatically know it's probably something in it, or somebody in your house, and you never know what it's. So we won't get off into that, but you know, it's
Before this thought, uh,
Yeah, that was a
oh
good
yeah,
video.
now
thank you.
which one?
The one about that place up in North Carolina, and they talking about only like 300 people perished, but the lady that got boots on the ground out there, she said no, there's tens of thousands of people that perished up there.
That's right. That's right.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah, man. It's devastation, my brother, for real. Yeah. Yeah. Even they not even reporting to Tennessee, man. Tragic, man. Man, a lot of people got devastated in Tennessee too. That's what I'm saying about these storms, y'all. They were so intense, and it's not being reported, man. It tore. Hey, man, listen. It was the equivalent of a Katrina. That's what came
Yeah.
through here with Burrow, man. I mean, it. Hey, man, listen. People are still without power, man.
Mm-hmm.
You got people down here still without power. We talking about months ago. Yeah. Well, I have a thought while we on this subject. Just let me get this in real quick. We can keep it moving. And yeah, man, this conversation is so deep. I love it. There's a movie, and Babu Siku. This is especially for you and your daughter, man. Y'all watch this together with Baba Lester, Baba Eddie. Hey, man,
Uh-huh.
this is a delight. It's called The Last Mimsy, and the
Okay.
Mimsy is a toy that was. Yeah, oh man, it was a toy that was dropped off by the military in the ocean, and these two kids found it. Oh, it's a lake in their neighborhood, and they found it floating in the lake, and they got it and took it inside their house. It's the shape of a dodecahedron, and when that thing when they
Whoa.
yeah, and so since children have the childlike nature to unlock it. They are the only ones that can unlock it, a child. And since
Yep.
they took it in the room and they was communicating with each other and just the frequency of the two, the way the brother and sister commingle with each other, it opens up the dodecahedron. And then man, now all of a sudden they come to breakfast with these special abilities. Their daddy wants some sugar. The little girl point her finger and lift the sugar and put it in his coffee.
Oh.
Well, he go to D part. So they each have a school project to do. This Mimsy is giving them the project to take to school. The Mimsy, the toy tells the little boy, get an aquarium and put a spider in it. Hey man,
Oh.
you ought to see the communication with the spider web and the little boy, man, how they communicate back. Like the webbing is a part of
God.
his brain. His brain is growing inside the aquarium with the web. And he communicated with them. You gotta
Oh.
watch them in the last Mimsy. It is deep. It's real
Oh.
deep, man. Real deep. Yeah, the
Thank
last
you.
Mimsy. Yeah, oh man, thank y'all, man. Thank y'all. These the conversations spark these kind of thoughts and memories, take you back. So yeah, it take you forward and back at the
That's
same
right.
time.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's that
So
time
yeah.
because there's certain fundamentals that was taught that not particularly being taught now. And I'm not saying that was being taught, but there's just certain fundamentals, like like we're doing some very, very strong fundamentals that not necessarily being taught, that people to remind us of what we were doing when we first started. You know what I mean? Like that, I think it's important. Because they're very simple, but and the new people coming in, they're getting some stuff, but then they kind of got to be refreshed with some, understanding about quartz and spiders, and you know what I mean? Like that. You know, I've been around people now that don't think snakes is as bad as they used to be. You know what I'm saying? Because they understand our relationship with them when we look at a snake indigenousness. You know what I mean? We don't, it's not opposed to how we looked at it, from maybe a religious standpoint of the serpent, you know? So it's a good thing. That's why I want to come back again and hit it this week. Because there's so much you dropped last week that when we started talking about connections, y'all immediately, I didn't even have to bring the topic up. Y'all immediately went into the connection of the spider, which showed us that we're connected everywhere. And ultimately we morph to that you have all that you need within your body. Like
That's right.
appreciate that, But it can make it that itself can visualizing when you meditate and visualize a platonic solid could be a one way of helping, you know what I mean, you to help your water inside your body transform to enhance your connection to the world.
Yes, right. That's right.
Which is there is something that's something they don't want, but you know, because it's something that they can't control. You know what I mean?
That's something that's always kind of bothered me. What kind of scrolls did they get? I don't even want to call it intelligence, even though they're very hard studied and they're very anal when it comes to things. But it's just so interesting. Like for the last 2,500 years, you know, they basically subdued the planet. They got the Slavics come over here and decimate this country. And they've always been, in control. The royal family is them. Now you got Musk, Gates. I like the beginning of that movie, The Secret, when they start talking about, they got all those metaphysicians and high science individuals, even thought process individuals. But in the beginning, they show somebody's there in it. They just show the temple. They don't show the people who lives in the temple. But one of the servants goes to that damn tablet and make a copy of it and runs off. That shit is funny. But I guess that's somewhat part of it because I'm sure they've always been close to libraries and shit because that's where all the information is. It's just interesting, man, that, just like now, you go on TikTok and these other apps and people are really starting to talk about so many different chemicals that, they putting in foods and how those chemicals shut down the consciousness and the will of society. Yes. And they don't discriminate. I seen a video the other day. This little girl had a sweet potato. She said, we was doing this in school. So she decided to do it at home. She got a regular sweet potato, which is the one that got all the chemicals in it. Then she got an organic one and she got another one. But my point is, she sat them all in water. The regular sweet potato just sat in the glass because, that, and somebody was synthesizing, narrating. They said that sweet potato has the chemical not just on its skin, but all the way through and through. The organic one is just basically some of the chemical is on the skin. No, yeah. And then they talked about the other one, which I don't remember what it was, but all I'm emphasizing on is both of those grew. The organic one didn't grow as fast as the other one. I don't know if somebody grew that in their garden or what. I got to try and find it. There's nothing I like about TikTok. Once you watch a video, if you close the app, it's hard to find that video if you don't send it to somebody or yourself. But I thought that was very interesting. You know, that little girl was doing that kind of science, and she could basically explain it.
Well, I mean, it is required at this point because the powers that be tell us that they're not going to regulate properly the stuff that's in our so-called food. And, this is the only way to determine what is actually still energizing and energizing not just the body, but the network. Think about what we've been talking about, that the earth itself is the means by which we can cellularly communicate with each other. Whether it's intentional or not, the way they're growing the food, the way they're treating the earth is depleting our ability to communicate with each other. I've been saying for the last 30 years that most of the food that I taste, even when I go to fancy restaurants, the food tastes tired to me.
Same here. I I recently had a banana and a few other things. And I'm not big on food, but
Mm-hmm.
it don't have any taste. It definitely don't have any taste. And with I can tell when I'm off my cancer medicine and I'm on my cancer medicine. You know what I mean? Like I might cycle off because I've been off since April.
Uh-huh.
But the things that's in the cancer medicine is like a super juicer. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
so within 24 hours, my body gives some shit that fruit don't have in it no more. Food, you know what I mean? And I can tell.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I can tell. So yeah, they definitely, you know. My point is, and do you think that the indigenous people here are special, and we're the people that's supposed to change and enlighten this world, and that's why certain things they let take place here that they don't let take place in Europe?
They're special. They're special in the sense that they've they've stuck with the original. They've emphasized their connection with that communication system, and they believe that that communication system will tell them what to do, even in the most distressful time periods. That's what makes them special. There's nothing unique about them other than the fact that they've been working this for so long that they know to trust that.
Okay, I was just wondering because I'm indigenous. I'm not African,
Oh yes,
you
of
know,
course.
and so it's like you just wonder, because I won't get off until it gets controversial, but it just seems when you know all the other things that was going on in the Americas, you know what I mean? Like
Uh huh.
more pyramids here, the Grand Canyon.
Uh huh.
I recently saw the fence. They literally have a fence out there where you ain't going in that part of the Grand Canyon. Whatever we put out there, you know what I mean? Like in the lady in the video said there were some FEMA camps in North Carolina. It's just people with AK-47.
Right.
You know what I mean? And they could be gardening equipment, but they're really not helping the people. Not like that. And so
Hmm.
is it could it be that this is a stronger energy center than some of the other continents?
I'm sorry. Say that again, please.
So could the Americas be, or especially North America, could this area, which they later, termed the United States, could the energy in this area be stronger? Because if the energy is stronger than the people that live, eat, and work, wouldn't they be affected more so in their ability to communicate, opposed to someone that wasn't living on the ley line?
Yes. Yes. And at the same time, what ancient peoples understood is that all energy is interconnected. So it doesn't, it behooves us There are ways of manipulating the energy from where we are that will bring the other energies back into balance. This is the same technology that these people under by studying ancient civilizations and societies, they understood they could manipulate people for their own agendas versus the way that ancient peoples understood that their worth was bound up in making sure that everybody was balanced and fed and energized. One's a fear based thing, the other one's a abundance based thing, and we can't buy into the fear based thing just because it looks like that's the dominant for pervasive energy. That's an illusion. It's not so much an illusion as it's based on the fact that these people have earned their stuff without working in the ways of nature, where you build up stuff. Like you can cut down trees, but you plant back more than you cut down. You know, we learned this lesson from or at least I learned this lesson when I studied Rome. You know, I growing up, I saw the movies in Rome, the glory of Rome, and the gold and all that stuff. But then when I read about actual day-to-day Rome, and they talked about how every household in the city of Rome not only worshiped Caesar, but they each had their own deity that they worship. So some worship Venus, some worship Zeus. They had a fire that burned inside of their house that they constantly fed for this particular deity. Well, how this relates is that they kept going out and cutting down trees, and nobody thought to replant them. So at like 50 AD, there wasn't a tree within 50 miles because they cut them all down, but nobody had replanted. And so we have that same kind of mentality. We just keep looking for new sources of lithium. We done found one, the biggest one. As I told you, Brother Eric, they found this other thing, and I'm not going to even mention where, that's like quadruple that size. These are all games. These are all economic games. However, the people back in the ancient days, the people who have the record keeping of what the ancients said, they understood that if we look up to the heavens, if we look to these endless sources of abundance, we will live in the world of endless abundance. We won't live in a world of lack. That's a consciousness. And so we just have to keep feeding the things that have always been fed, our endless source of consciousness and abundance. And it's hard. It's hard to look at that when we're giving all these phony images. But at the same time, our body is this endless thing of abundance. Our planet's endless abundance. Even the bugs and the birds. Even with the toxins and all the stuff we put in their way, they still do their thing. And no, I just want to say, and that's just on our planet.
I just strongly feel that there's definitely something to this landmass because most of the other world basically touches. And the foolishness really didn't start the worst until they were brought here. And
yes,
just like partly what you're speaking to, we were decimated. There's tribes and nations, families, whatever, that are no longer on the planet. And they're fighting to keep us unconscious, just like going back to what, Yusiko said. There's a lot. I say damn near 90% of the things grown and produced in America is not allowed in no other country.
That's
Just like
right. That's right.
just like even prime example. I think it was in Ghana. They opened up some Kentucky Fried Chicken, and within a week, they started having high blood pressure and diabetes. The
Oh,
main people, the main people that didn't have the problem,
yeah.
was poor because they couldn't afford to buy the chicken.
Right. That's right. That's
But
right.
all the people that had paper of any kind, you know, they were getting sick as hell. Some of
That's
those
right.
diseases that they never seen in that country before. So even Winnie Mandela, when she came here for the Million Man March, that's what she said. She said the world is waiting for the melanated people in America to stand up. You know,
That's right.
uh, govern ourselves by our spirit and our wisdom faculty, because it ain't about war. Because I don't think enough of us will ever, I shouldn't say that, putting it out there, fully
No.
activate,
Right.
you know. But if we could, you know, by the higher part of our being, not these low things, pride, emotions, ego, jealousy, and anger. No, because it'll still be just like it is, melanation on melanation crime. And that don't benefit us. But there has to be something about this. Just like that, just like what he said. The oldest water found on this planet was found in Canada. Canada is basically part of the Americas. North America is basically in the womb. It's in the middle, but it's like the womb. It's like in between mama's legs. South America is bigger, Canada is bigger. And we right in the middle. There's so many things here. Every mineral on this planet is in the body of most people, definitely melanation station people. And the same minerals that's on this planet is out in the universe. I think that's very, very interesting. Even gold that courses through our veins.
That's right.
And they found the oldest trees right there in Catskill, New York. Yeah, that's right. That's that Canada America land bridge, man. That's a lot of history right there. A lot. A whole lot. That's the Great Lake system, and all of that. There's so much. What they call that Jurassic, Jurassic
Yeah.
yeah, Jurassic lands and ancient petrified forests. Oh man, heavily oxygenated areas where leaves of trees are still humongous. I visited Canada, man. The flora and fauna up there is ridiculous, man. I said, man, how is this possible? Just below it, it's like, man, everything is is small. Everything is. We don't see the big historical things that they talk of, the big muscadine elephants and all these things.
Right.
Man, it
Right.
existed. If you go to Canada, you could tell it was there. It was there at once, man. You could tell everything is huge, man. And you know what? It's perennial. Everything just grow wild. They let it grow. They don't be cutting it. They don't have no lawnmowers. None of that. They let it go wild. It's beautiful.
Exactly. And just like what you're saying, but if you venture into some caves, because I think that was back in the 80s. I don't think it was Time Life. I don't remember what it was, but there was some pictures that I saw. Giraffes, camels. It's like prime example. At one time, the military, you know, they stopped using horses and they started using damn camels. And they said that a lot of these animals were indigenous to America. They ain't bring them over here by boat. They were already here. Going back to them pictures that was in the caves. Before any foot was on this landmass, thousands of years old. You know, they were here, lions, all that shit. So it is definitely interesting. So it might really be something significant about melanation station people in America. But again, we gotta wake up, because I think that's the key to everything. We still sleep. Les, you in New York, Doc? If I may
Yes,
ask?
sir. Yes. Yes, I am.
There's a lot of people moved out of there. They down in different parts of, the South. But I just really feel there's more to this game as we wake up and see more and more. Um, but if we could find out how to get some of these toxins out of us, just like even water in these plastic bottles, they're talking about how they did tests on corpses and they found some plastics from those water bottles, in men's penises, in their testicles, in their brains, around their heart,
Sure.
crazy.
Well, see, once again, I'm not the person. I am not the person that pushes any agendas. But when I read in the book and it said putting a skeletal pyramid over one's garden, meaning not over it, like hovering over it, but if my garden is 10 by 10 feet, then I'm going to make a 10 by 10 foot base, and the sides are going to be approximately 7 feet long, or I mean, I'm sorry, 9.5 feet long, which makes it about 6.5 feet tall. The point is that I had no scientific proof of what they were saying at the time, which is the 70s, but it said that not only would it keep all the vegetables grown inside of that shape purified, and even if negative or toxic water went in there, it would purify that water, but it would purify everything within 500 feet of it on every side. I had to try that out. And that was in the 70s. So there are answers out here in terms of what can be done. But I'm taking my time until people are ready to hear them and try them out. Because I've tried all this stuff out since 1976, multiple decades. So I'm just saying, it may not be my answer, but there are answers out here. And the animals have the answers, the ancestors, meaning the hieroglyphs, have the answers. All kinds of cultures have these answers. Okay. For example, there are, most of the pyramids that are in Egypt have been allowed to deteriorate to some degree or another. If it was anywhere else in the world, they would do every effort to keep them as purified or preserved as possible, and even rebuild them. But there's approximately 175 pyramids in Egypt. There are 200 pyramids in China right now, big ass ones. There are hundreds of pyramids in North America. Hundreds. There are 90,000 pyramids in Mexico alone.
And they're older than the ones in Africa, right?
Oh, bro. Yeah, many of them. Oh, the ones in Teotihuacan, the Pyramid of the Sun, the pyramid, way older than that. Well, first of all, that's bogus because the dating and the system that they have for the ones in Africa is off. But I'll accept that. I'll just go ahead. Yes, the ones in Mexico are way older. You got pyramids in Indonesia, in Italy. You got pyramids all over the world. And it's a system that when people are willing to look at, and could there possibly be interrelation between these people? And was there exchange of information? When you look at the information, when you look at the data, absolutely. And that's the clue to me, not to pound my chest and say the Egyptians knew all this stuff. It's like we all communicated. And since we didn't have cell phones, then how did that happen? It happened because people thought it was important enough to share and spread their information versus hoarding like we do now. So we got to learn some spiritual lessons, not just some physical lessons about how to purify the ground. If I purified my earth and I'm still killing the animals and letting all this other stuff happen, that's not good enough. We got to make the giant leap. And the only way we're going to make that giant leap is by realizing and energizing the fact that we're connected to everything, not just our neighborhood, not just to the animals and the birds and hugging the trees, but to the entire global system we have in our solar system. The fact that we got hundreds of millions of planets in our solar system, Milky Way. And there's contact that can be done on every level, every day with other beings on these other planets. We got, I think I read something like 1 billion galaxies in our universe. And there's probably more than one universe. So we got lots of work to do. There's, we talk about the seven sisters looking up in the sky at night and saying the Pleiades, called the seven sisters. Well, there's archaeological evidence that these shaman, and they were women that lived in Siberia, they looked up at that same thing and they saw 70 stars. And we find the same evidence in among the Mayans in Mexico. So either our perception was greater, our skies were clearer, we had better access to mushrooms. Regardless of how it happened, different people throughout different times got different information. It's very true that we had much more nutrition coming through our sky from the stars than we do now. In other words, we used to inhale a lot of our nutrition.
Oh.
Gold, especially. Okay. But that's for another drop the mic session. I'm just saying that we have to deal with where we are now. It helps to understand that everything was not the same. There's no such thing as the same in nature. We all go through times of ups and downs, of droughts and floods and abundance and overabundance. But it's understanding our place in there and our abilities. We can change these things. These things are not immutable. Look at Findhorn. The people there had, the same, well, not the same conditions, but they had similar conditions to down in Tierra del Fuego, where, the wind blows at like 90 miles an hour constantly. Up in Findhorn, it was like 30 miles an hour constantly. But in both places, they said, okay, we can't change the physical dynamics. What do we have? And some few people that were up there said, well, let's pray to our inner beings and the spirit beings of the land. And other people said, what spirit beings of the land? Well, we don't got anything to lose. And they started praying to the spirit beings of the land, and suddenly they were producing 20 and 30-pound cabbages. And on the soil, I'm like, the roots in these plants were only like an inch down. It begs us to ask the question, what is possible? What is capable by the earth, our bodies, and our consciousness? And the answer that I found is limitless. And the animals remind me of that all the time. They all have super abilities and do things that are just amazing.
They got an insect over here. I don't know what it is. He can fly through the air and catch a wasp and take off with him.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
Mm-hmm.
They have some in South Carolina like that, and they burrow. You know what I mean? You could be in the
Catch a
yard,
wasp
and you see a lot
Excuse
of
me,
holes.
I need
They
clarity
come
on
out.
that.
They wasp kill them.
Damn.
Everything is everything. Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
But I want to add something on to what you're saying because I watched some YouTube shorts today. I saw 4 or 5 of them where the guys was out fishing and the animals of the sea was bringing injured animals to their boat. And that's very deep.
Wow.
You know how you know what I mean? Like one was it was a sea turtle and it had the net around him and
Yes.
an orchid that normally eat the turtle brought the turtle to the back of the boat so the people could, and they ended up taking the turtle in. And then another was it was a baby dolphin was caught in those vicious ass nets that they shouldn't allow nets to go 5 miles or more. You know what I mean, like that. And unless they utilize everything that they catch in the net, they don't. But and the baby dolphin was caught in the net, and the mama brought it to the back of the boat. First, the mama brought a fish, as if to say, "Well, here," and brought him a big ass fish. And then the guy decided to follow the dolphin, and that's when they saw him. So things are changing. I just say that because things are changing, where nature's, understanding or they're having a sense of when there's certain humans that's in line with them. And like when I stop killing any and everything, then I find that nature senses me different. You know what I mean? That so there's certain things that it may or may not do. The bird may let me get closer than normal to it because it's like, well, you ain't your intentions, or watching these guys go out in the Georgia hills and flip this tin up and there'd be snakes there, right? And they reach down to grab the damn snake. Whereas it probably wouldn't do that to me because I have a certain fear of it. And they be sense me like, oh, you scared of me, so I can take this posture that's gonna make you not pick me up. You know what I mean? Like that. And all that is communication, because how would they sense that I have a phobia about a snake, certain snakes? Very powerful. This has been a very stimulating, you know, conversation, definitely. But because it makes you have to like this conversation is really like we got to really examine ourselves. You know what I mean? Like that. Really like examine what you're doing, reorganize yourself, understanding that you could get your all your cells, you could get your cells in alignment and have them look like the solids. Or for instance, like last week you taught us that take a quartz, a double ternate quartz, and put it between your hands, the chakras in your hand, and aligns your brain in 5 minutes. That I'm getting ready to do sweat lights, and that's something I'm gonna have everybody do before I take them in the line. You know what I mean?
That's
Let's
right.
get a line before we go in, so that you see you going in to seek balance. Well, going mentally be balanced, like that. And I guess the last thing is, like grounding. Before we
Yes.
go,
Yes.
go. What's the importance of grounding?
Okay. Grounding. Hold on. I'm sure potatoes.
Go ahead, do.
I'm going to start off this part of my babble by saying that years ago I was looking in a biology book and it said all life is dependent on the exchange of energy or energies. And that really knocked me over the head because most of the biology books was from a human centric perspective, that biology was all based on some evolutionary thing, that everything was designed for us humans. And I realized that even if that were true, even if that were some kind of evolutionary buildup, that we're still dependent upon the smallest contributors because it, it goes from simple to complex. And so I'm taking the attitude that I can't take any of the other living beings on this planet for granted. That if I want to communicate with the trees, I have to take the subordinate position that this kingdom is way older than me. And thus, if I'm going to communicate, if I'm trying to communicate with the trees or the plants, that I have to communicate at their frequency. And this leads me to the most basic physics principle, which is we have waves and we have resonance. And when we have waves, such as, when people talk about hugging a tree or grounding, that on the most basic physical level, I'm taking off my shoes and socks. I'm outside and I'm putting my feet on the earth, the grass, or the plot of land, whatever. And there is an exchange of electrons. The electrons that are residing on the surface and below the surface of the earth are coming up into the soles of my feet. They are donating the extra electrons they have to me in order to balance out the energetics of my system. The earth knows that I take in a certain amount of energy, and as I then walk, I'm now donating some of that energy to the other things that I'm walking through. Just like the earth volunteered and gave energy to me, just my sheer movement is giving energy to other things. That is, as I said before, that is the wave propagation. In other words, energy is traveling, and therefore there's a time from the time that it feels me on the ground, and then it fills me up. So there's movement. That's one type of energetic exchange. The other type of energetic exchange is a resonance energetic exchange. And so, first thing I want to say about the two of them is that anytime I have wave propagation, anytime I'm talking about atoms and electrons and all that stuff, well, that involves time and movement and resistance. There's something that's stopping that stuff from being instantaneous. When we start to resonate with frequencies, then the energy goes from that item to me, or me to that item instantaneously. We cannot measure any time lag. It is not going through space. It's me, and then that thing is me. Where that thing is thinking something or vibrating something, and something I'm vibrating to that something. So a great deal of what I'm talking about when I talk about this time period and us energetically communicating with all this stuff, it's literally practicing, first of all, to learn how to get into vibration with other things. And therefore, I might have to spend a certain amount of time every day, not a whole bunch of time, 5 minutes, just saying, I want to be in tune with when I want to when I need to connect with stuff. On the other hand, the more I do that first part, the easier it is for me to get into resonance with stuff where instantly, and I'm trying to say this, instantly, the knowledge is wherever that other place is, and it's also in me. There's no time lag. And that's the stuff we're talking about getting used to. That the more we be in contact with the grounding forces, and the grounding, grounding, because you asked me what grounding is about. Grounding is about taking an energy that I discharge until suddenly I'm letting off more energy than I'm taking in. And as soon as I'm letting off more energy than I'm taking in, I'm in resonance to some degree. And therefore, whatever I need to vibrate with, it will come to me instantly. I don't have to do any work. I don't do any fire breathing. I don't have to do any, colonics. I'm not saying those things are not important, but I'm saying nature doesn't do those things. We have to learn how to get back to our ultimate nature, but our ultimate nature is not working, meaning toiling. It's being one with the moment. That's the healing, not focusing on the trauma. Am I babbling?
Oh, you're taking my breath away. Yeah. I gotta. Yeah. Because I mean, like my mom transitioned to Hawk World, and the last 3 times I saw her, she was on the ground. So I've been to like the last week, like, what is she telling me to do? Ground? And now you let me know that I need to, and then I'll pick up an instantaneous. You follow what I mean? What she's probably saying is like, you're saturated. I need you to ground. It's gonna
Right,
help heal you.
right,
But then
right.
again, on the metaphysical side, it's gonna be healthy.
Mm-hmm.
That's far. Appreciate it. Eric, Eddie. Did you wasn't finished though? You got some more to add to it, Baba?
No, I was just saying that more than anything else, we just need to get started in terms of communicating. And it could be trees, it could be grass, it could be the law system. It doesn't matter. We have to start communicating and exercising, uh, going through the cycle of taking an energy from the earth and learning it's our responsibility to let that off. That the help that everybody wants and meeting our tribe and everything, part of that tribe is the earth itself. She's here to donate the energy so that we can make those other connections. And it's a matter of just doing the exercises, hurting that tree. Not just once, not going out to a retreat, but pick the tree on my block, not the one I go out to see the giant sequoia tree in California. You understand what I'm saying? That's great. That's the inspiration, but we got to take care of our local trees. And by that saying, by being in touch with one of those things, it'll tell us about the squirrels and the birds and the water system and everything else. Everything is in contact with everything. We don't have to call every single being. They will let us know. Now, my personal, I feel responsible that I have to bring more bats back. So I'm working on building some bat houses. Bats serve tremendous functions in our societies, and they're mammals. They have milk. So
super intelligent. Super intelligent.
Oh yeah. I mean, come on. They got radar and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, you told me about a cloaking device that they came up with to keep from getting
Yeah,
eaten by hawks and stuff.
right,
And
right.
yeah, I see.
No, it
Yeah, I
was
know
no,
that.
it wasn't. No, it wasn't the hogs. I mean, that's true too. That's true too. But it was more. What's been studied more is that the bats were always used to use their radar to find the moth. And the thing is that everybody loves the bees. The bees, the pollinators. But the moths actually do more pollinating than bees do because the bee is limited by it going back to the hive, whereas the moth keeps traveling and works during day and night. And so the bats, being night dwellers, they come out and they're like, oh man, moths. So the moths in their antennae, they figured out that it was the radar coming from the bat that was finding them. So they put a blocking mechanism. They evolved a blocking mechanism in their antenna to block that signal. And so the bats now couldn't find the moths. So the bats said, oh no, evolution, what can we do? And they're like, well, find the beacon that blocks our signal. So now the bats are now finding them because they're putting out this blocking signal, but they can find the blocking signal. That's the ongoing, build up and expression of nature. Our Western science say, oh, it's the battle, it's the destruction. It's like, no, it wants the greatest expression.
And that Asian hornet found out how to. The Asian hornet got over here some kind of way and found out how to get into the beehive with and get the scent. He can mimic the scent of the
Right.
bee
That's
and get
it.
in there and get as much honey as they want, and then go call 10 of the homies and come and eat all the heads of all the bees.
That's it. That's it. Yes, good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so cloaking devices are serious, man. It's some serious, it's some serious stuff going on out here. Real serious, man. Serious. Can't wait to part 3.
Hey, look, by that time, because we'll have a better feel of what's coming, meaning for our country and for the world. Right now the world is reacting to the election and going into winter and whatever. But in a couple of weeks we'll have a better feel of what's happening. And better intuition is a better word for me to say. So I look forward to part 3 because we must respond to the calling that our soul is calling us to do, not the physical world. We're still going to go to the best not the restaurant, but the best Whole Foods to get the freshest food that we can, or whatever place we go. But that doesn't change our underlying intention and dedication to completing our soul journey.
I actually believe he gonna help with that. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I really do. Because people are so worried. They looking at alternative styles of life.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Especially since we got Helena. People are really looking for. Like I said, I was camping last week with people that don't open their sun. You know what I mean? Like that. And so it's gonna be interesting. I think he will. You know, and I'm not giving him the credit for it, but I think because of how people perceive him, it's going to make people look for alternative ways of life to survive. And when they start getting one with nature, then that sends more energy out to help change the planet in some ways. Through this 200 years, we got to go. You know, just like
Look.
we. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, he was kind of instrumental with the whole Juneteenth thing in the West.
Yeah.
He was
Mm-hmm.
he was going to have. Remember, he was going to had one of his meetings over there during the time that Juneteenth was taking place, and it made it go national. You know, some people were
Mm-hmm.
like me. I lived in D.C., so they already had a Juneteenth celebration, but it wasn't
Uh-huh.
like
Right.
it is
Right.
now. It definitely wasn't a holiday, and it wasn't,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it wasn't that was talked about like it is now. You know, so maybe out of his negative, there still can be beauty. In other words, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look, as I said, you know, the universe is is asking for the ultimate expression. You know, if we don't do it right the first time, something else will pop up. You know, it will keep doing its thing until the ultimate expression has been perfected. Um, you know, so
I
that's
agree with you because we're here simply because of
yes,
because this
yeah,
ain't the first time we've done this rodeo. You know what I
that's
mean?
right, that's right, that's
And
right.
so it has corrected or perfected itself. Because
Hmm.
for a person to figure out the Ugas, they had to live.
That's
There had to
right.
be some study
That's right.
over twenty six
That's
thousand
right.
years. Yeah.
That's right.
So anyway, any comments? And I know we're gonna do it again at some point. Eddie, you got something you want to leave, Uh, brother Eric?
I want to say one thing. We in the year of the dragon. The dragon has the symbol of silver, right in the middle. And so, man, I'm gonna break out some silver and ride this wave. And we're looking forward to the next time, man. This is a grand build, man. I'm so glad to be a part of it, man. Really thankful. Thankful for all our moms and dads and ancestors that was able to get us here through all the turmoil. And man, give thanks.
Ashe, Ashe. Baba Eddie.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate everything that's been shared, and it's definitely a lot of confirmation in reference to remembering more than, I thought about some of these things or I knew some of these things. I feel everything is just like what you say, you see, cool. We've done this before, this is a sliding pond in a damn coil. You know what I'm saying? But the beautiful thing about it is sometimes you don't have to repeat second, third, and fourth grade. But the reality is it is somewhat of a never-ending story. But overall, that old technology really needs to be re-implemented because everything is AI, everything is artificial, and it's just flattery. But I definitely thank everybody here for being here in this day and time for that oneness. Everything is on the one. Thank us.
Hey, Ashe. And Baba, master teacher. You got something to leave us with?
uh like the brother said, and the master channeler of the last 40 years said, everything is on the one.
Mm.
That's George Clinton, you know. And as I'm always reminding the brother, it, it's on time, in time, for all time. You know, this is just a rerun. Okay, we
Yeah.
don't done this before, and we're gonna do it again endlessly. It's a loop. Come on, come on. You know, and we got the master teachers, the animals and the insects and the biome to remind us, you know, that it's ongoing. Whether it's the ideal situation 12,000 years from now that everything is perfect, or it's like, you know, you know, me lecturing and coming back on the train. The only thing I can eat is Hostess Twinkies. Look, it's all the same. It's all the same. Dedication to figuring out who we are and what our contribution is. And by figuring that out, that guarantees that this thing will be ongoing and everybody will get their chance to perfect themselves. How about that?
Hey, I appreciate it. Definitely
When you're hot, you're hot. Bob, I got one more
Oh,
question though.
look what you got. I don't care when you're cold. When you're hot, you're hot. Look at what you got. That's right. That's right. I forgot about that. That's right.
Yes, indeed.
Oh,
Uh,
come on now.
to bring that alignment though,
Yeah,
that one within ourselves, so we
yeah.
automatically using those inner glands instead of using these eyes. Uh,
Hey, yes. Look, look. Okay, okay. When I was when I was when I was studying the human body, and I purchased this book, which is called The Cell. It's 1,088 pages. If you go online right now, it's hundreds of dollars to purchase a used copy. It is the most thorough investigation I've ever found about the explanation of cells and how they work. And yet, studying this entire tome, which took me years, I'm talking years just to read through it. I would read one chapter and have to stop and research that for months. So it took me years to go through one time. But in that whole time, I realized that I didn't actually know the origin of the word cell. And that's always been my criticism of any Western education is most of the time they don't tell me the origin, what people originally thought. Where does this concept come from? Okay, so I went to the meaningary. That's the name that Little Lester gave to the dictionary. I went to the dictionary and I looked at the word cell. And right there in the etymology, it said that the word cell comes from when we had monasteries during the Middle Ages. And even though each one of those monks or those priests lived there and they had their daily duties, they had to clean certain things and tend to the gardens and all the clean the monastery and everything. When it came time for them to do their religious individual exercises, they had a little tiny room that they would go into, and the purpose of them going into this little space was to talk to God. And the name of this room was called the cell. So I want to leave you with the idea that as soon as I collected all my brain cells and got them back into my head, which had exploded, I realized that up until that time, I've been thinking I had to perfect every cell and purify and do all this stuff. And suddenly I realized I can use one cell to talk with God. And if I get that one communication, that will purify and energize all the other cells. So I just want to leave you with the idea that a cell, whether it's a gel cell, a blood cell, or, as we say, a phone cell, otherwise known as a cell phone, they're all there for us to communicate with our Creator.
Cam might call it a sailboat.
So, and once again, I'm a scientist. I tested that out. Like I said, I thought I was going to have to, do all this purification. It's like, oh, because there are times when I'm walking, I'm living a mundane life. I'm looking at the booty. I'm thinking about a hamburger, and suddenly that one cell will activate, and all that stuff is gone. I only think about what is it and why am I here at this moment and what do I need to induct. So let's try that for a moment. Anyway, I got to eat something, and I love all of you. Just keep looking on the inside and the outside, and don't hesitate to call me. And I look forward to part 3.
Cool. And thanks for your time. We definitely appreciate it. Brother Eric, it's Cat People 1982. That's the one.
Oh, okay, there you go. Cat People 1982. I'm on it. Thank you.
Oh, Cat People, yes.
Cat
People.
Yeah. The movie Cat People. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about earlier. I remember when that movie came out. It was the, what I
mean? Hey, Yasiku, that's a 4. Yes. 1982. You could reduce it to I'm messing up. 1984. No, I'm wrong. That's 1010. That's 2.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. Oh, you said 1984. Now, why I keep hearing 2? 1984. You said, right?
82. But that's 10, and 1 is 9. Yeah. It could be 10, 10, or 9. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you said 19. Wow. 99 is 10.
Oh yeah, that's right. Man, I'm thinking 10. Well, I'm that's 900 years. Yeah, you're right. 10.
We time traveling, man. That's gonna happen, doing this time traveling conversation. Yeah.
Absolutely. Come on now.
Thanks for remembering that. You see how the memory is this conversation what is that, sending quartz crystal signals to each other, man, and everything is quickening.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay. I'm living here in New York, and I grew up and constantly travel to the Brooklyn Museum. And one of the things that makes the Brooklyn Museum so unique is that they've got statues on the outside of the building of all the great philosophers throughout time. Most of them are Greek, but they do have Chinese philosophers and a couple of African philosophers up there. But the mantle that's over the front of the museum has the muses. And who are the muses? The muses are the 8 women. Each one of them is in charge of a different inspiration of the art. So you have the muse of poetry, the muse of song, and the different artistic expressions of humankind. But when I went to art school, they said there were 9 muses. So I'm like, so who's the 9th muse? Like, where's the 9th muse? And the 9th muse is the mother of the muses. And they don't emphasize her as much, but she is in charge of, her name literally means memory. And that's the ultimate expression of the human soul, is to remember, to put all the pieces of all the knowledge we have back together. And that's what they're doing, is doing everything they can so we won't remember. Sorry. Some of us had better drugs than others, so no, it's too late. It's time to remember and take us out of here.
They can't jail all of us. It's too late.
Kill? Listen,
said jail.
Listen.
I didn't say. I just said
jail. Oh, no, look, that's the same thing. That's the same thing. Okay. When I went to college for one semester, and uh, so it was a small college. It was so small that the town we lived in had 5,000 people, of which 3,000 were college members. So there was only 2,000 people in this town. And so it's a small town, and there I am, having a normal day. And suddenly somebody comes into my room and they says, they're shutting down the university at 3 o'clock. And so I go out to my, dorm head, and I say, what's this about? He says, the Ku Klux Klan has announced that they're coming and they're marching through town and they're going to march through the university. So I'm like, what? And so out of these 3,000 students, there was maybe 50 black students in this college. And so they called me up on the phone, and they're like, meet us off campus at this house, because some of the students had rented a house. And so I walk over to this house, and I walk into the house. The sisters are bawling, they're crying. The brothers are talking about militant stances and how can we get guns. And I'm the black hippie among this whole squad, right? So some people are quoting Malcolm, other people are quoting Bobby Seale. The sisters are talking about, identification in case we get killed. And finally, after they've gone through the whole room, they finally turn to me because I'm the least restricted. I'm the guy smoking the joint. I'm the hippie. And they go, so what do you think? And I said, this is some of the dumbest shit I've ever heard of. And they all look at me like, you're stoned. What are you talking about? I said, if I'm trying to avoid the Ku Klux Klan from wiping me out, I wouldn't locate every one of us in the same fucking location. Mm-hmm. And they all went, oh, he's stoned, but maybe he knows something. I said, look, all this is built on fear. This is not how you deal with fear. And so I put my joint up, and I walked out the house, and they go, where are you going? I'm saying, I'm going to stop the fear. And I walked up from the house, I walked up to the campus, and sure enough, there they were, all hooded up with the torches. They're walking through town. I'm looking at the dorm rooms. There's at least 2,000 people in the dorms looking out the windows, and they're terrified. Everybody, the white people are terrified. And these people are walking up the street with their hoods and whatever, and I'm walking up the street. So there's like 150 of them and me. And so I'm walking toward them. And so finally they go, get out the road, nigga. You don't scare me. And they're like, didn't you hear us? Get out the road. We're coming through. And I said, if you kill me, I'll just come back and haunt you. And they all stopped. They had never heard any batshit crazy talk like that, right? And so they said, you didn't understand. We're coming through. We're the White Citizens Brigade. And even though all of them had on their hoods and their sheets, I looked down at their shoes. And the man that ran the hardware store always wore his red cowboy boots. And I looked back at this hooded being and I said, Mr. Jenkins from the hardware store? And they all turned around and ran down the street.
Uh-huh.
And suddenly I'm surrounded by 2,500 students who all run out of the dorm and said, "What did you do? What happened?" And by this time, all the black students have run from the off campus house and they're all up there too. And they're like, "Yo, dude, what happened?" I say, "Excuse me, I got half a joint waiting back at the house."
They don't. They don't make that type of weed anymore. You know that, right?
Yeah, exactly, my brother. Exactly. That was imported from South America. Exactly.
Oh,
That's
okay.
right.
That's why they don't.
That's part of the point too. You know, it's like, we need that international biodiversity to keep us in line with the universe.
Hmm.
Okay. When I was looking in the New York Times about 10 years ago, and they were talking about how they had they had a new device that they could just point this thing to the marijuana that was grown, the buds, and they could determine where it was grown in the United States. And so I had to know how this technology worked. And so I called the people up and they said, "Oh, we can measure the magnetic signature coming out of the earth, and therefore that's how we know where it's grown." And I'm like,
Wow.
y'all spent all this fucking money. But that told me how significant the magnetic field was. So I'm just saying that uh, we need cosmic biodiversity. We need to be getting signals and ganja and food and lovemaking from everywhere until we find the one that best amplifies who we are. Okay, I'm getting off the phone because I got to eat now.
Thank you.
But
Hey, I
I love
appreciate
all
that.
of you.
All
Yeah,
right.
and it's always an investigation, my friend. It's not the end. It's never the end. It's always ongoing. But the more I learn about me, the more I can contribute to everybody else, and the more it just keeps on growing.
All
So
right.
there.
I appreciate it.
Doc, that was a heaven of a way to close. Both of
Yes.
those, both of those things, because just like what you're saying, if the collard greens is grown at a certain place and it
Right.
has a certain amount of electricity and things, it will
That's
assist
right.
in
That's right.
that perfect alignment.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly what I'm saying. And it's perfect to use the word collard greens because I had a pyramid. My mother allowed me to put a pyramid over her entire garden for 20 years. She had different gardens, but these were 50 by 50 foot, 30 foot tall pyramids. And one of the things we learned during that time period was the pyramid extends the growing period that plants can have. I mean, literally, I've told Eric these stories, but literally, I went out in December and picked tomatoes that had snow on them. And the snow didn't even freeze them because it was underneath a pyramid. But that's not the point. The point was that because it allowed the collard greens to grow longer, we learned that if you let the collard greens grow until after the frost, it automatically softens the collard greens. They're not as tough.
Yeah, definitely make them sweeter.
Wow.
But
Mm-hmm.
people that
Mm-hmm.
move down here, they'll grow them late and don't pick them till after Thanksgiving.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Make sure they, yeah, definitely. They'll
But going
So
survive
back
it
to
when
what
I go to sea. But
well,
that's
I'm just
another.
saying that because it's always a learning experience.
yeah, but not only that, anybody that's been around anybody that cooks collard greens, them joints cook just like a job on the plantation. That shit is like
That's
4 to 8 hours.
right. Right. That's right. That's exactly my point. Right. Right. Yeah.
So if you wait till spring Them shits is softer and easier to cook and probably even more palatable, huh? Because as nature
That's
wakes back
right.
up,
That's right. That's
that
right.
is
That's right.
They'll grow the seed though. By February they'll
That's
sprout.
right. That's right.
And they'll grow the seed because I had one that was like 4 years old
Hmm.
because I realized when it goes to seed, it flowers so early in the spring, it brought my pollinators. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because they'd be looking for flowers in February and be like, "What? This dude got this one
Right.
pollinator." Yeah,
Right.
and
Right.
it just
But here's the thing. If you let it go through that process, when you plant those seeds after the spring, when the spring comes back, they will have that non-tough property, even if it doesn't go to the next winter.
wow. Okay.
It
Wow.
inherits that property. It remembers that property.
Wow. I got some of that
So
seed. I got to get some 2020 first until, and then by
okay,
February I'm gonna
all
take
right.
some of the seeds of my offsprings and plant it. I just got to get.
That-
The guy told me I need 2020 to
Yeah, okay,
because
yeah.
I couldn't even grow tomatoes this year, so I ain't got
Oh
nothing.
wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, we're gonna change all that, bro.
I appreciate it definitely.
We're gonna change all of
Mhm.
that. I'm talking from experience. I'm not talking from like hope.
I
I've
get you.
grown things that literally people have given to me because they're like, this will only grow under these conditions. I'm like, yeah, okay. But the pyramid rewrites all that. That's how
I
we know
got
it's cosmic.
you.
That's how we know it's cosmic because it's like, no, give me any condition, okay, and let me add the universe, and it's done.
I got one
All right,
over my
I'm
bed.
out.
It's a small one. Thank you. Get your
All
food,
right,
Baba. Eric, I'll
yes,
call you.
I will.
Brother Eddie,
All
thank
right,
you. All right.
yes.
Peace
here
and
we go.
love, family.